everyone, and welcome. It's been a very long time, but I'm going to be continuing my Exit Corners developer commentary. I did give a fair amount of insight the last two streams, but I thought it'd be nice to just cap this off and play through the entire game. I'm not going to play through the entire rest of the game here. My goal today is to go from chapter 12 to chapter 17, which is a nice place to leave off. But I'm going to try to do this stream and then maybe 2 more streams after that and just finish everything. As I was saying, it's been a while since I played this last, but despite having not opened the game for almost 2 years, maybe like a year and a half since the previous stream, it still does remember what chapter I'm on. So I'm sorry to everyone who had data issues, but I never encountered these data issues on my machine on any browser. And I did, put in some workarounds. They were very bad. But, we're past that now. And thankfully, anyone who plays it these days doesn't have to wait like week to week or, month to month to play these new chapters. So most people can play through it in a single sitting and they don't have to worry about the data stuff at all. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Hopefully everyone can see and hear everything just fine. If you're having difficulty understanding me, or if the game's too loud or too quiet, just let me know. Let's do the recap, because it has been a while. Shtick. I like the word shtick. I probably use it too much. But, I don't know, it's a good word. That's a word I don't use very often. But these recaps were added after the game transition from being a day-to-day thing to a week-to-week thing, because I did not expect everyone to keep track of this week-to-week. Oh, you can't hear the game? I don't know if that was because it was like kind of low on the main menu. Now we've actually got some sound effects with the beeps coming in. But if that is still an issue, let me know. And we actually have some music coming in. But I can change the mixer and, adjust that as necessary. Yes, the post-admission scene. The last line text is slightly cut off. Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? It certainly was. Okay, well, hopefully that wasn't too bad. Darn. Okay, well, I'll just maybe edit that in the VOD or something, if I can. We'll see. So this was a pretty fun scene to write, because you can just have Sent go full weird. And when a character is going full weird, it's a lot easier than when you have 2 very grounded characters, because, the character who's being very exuberant or very extreme can usually just, push and carry the conversation on their own. Whereas when it's, 2 level-headed people, you can make a conversation, but it can be harder to make it interesting. There is some bad stuff in here with Sent saying, "Oh, I'm not a man," if that's what you're worried about. I don't know. I would not put that in a game these days. This was written before, I'm not going to say, it was written before I got woke, but it was written before I had a, solid understanding of being non-binary. And the way I've written some of the like sent gender stuff, not great. But you know what? It's a mistake I made, and not one I plan on repeating. Yes. So here we have a sand trap that never goes off. I wanted to include more traps in the game in general. Like, fake traps that make the contestants feel like they're in danger. But, selling these is kind of hard. We have a heat trap, which is not something you really have to, like, display. You can just sort of describe it. And then we have a trap where the elevator's filling up with water, which is, again, easy enough to describe. But something like sand falling from the ceiling, which is what I had in this room, I don't know. It's hard to convey without visuals and have it be exciting. So here we run into a limitation of the way I coded the, story engine. The issue here is that I wanted to make a scene where you could ask something and then ask something else and then ask something else. And then whenever you were ready, you could, like, move on. But unfortunately, the game is coded in such a way that, you can pick one answer and then it can never loop back around. The story is entirely linear. You could probably do it with a bunch of series of nested, like, script statements, basically, but that would have been really messy and really hard to both write and debug. So I had Sent be like, okay, you can ask me one question, and then that's it. But I do like the cheeky no answer, so we'll go with that. At the same time, I did like, having elements where different players will get different experiences, like a question that forks. And so that encouraged discussion, because that's something I really wanted with the serial nature of the game was, a lot of discussion. That decision wasn't necessarily the most exciting one. There's not like a ton of like kernels of information in each of those branches, but every little decision is a possibility that two people will discuss the differences. The door sound effect I used is like a royalty-free one from some sound library. And whenever another project uses it, I notice it immediately because it's so, I don't know, it's very easy to identify. The horror game Home, which is also developed in Toronto, also uses that sound effect. So if you ever play Home, which is a great game, keep an ear out for the door sound effect, because it's the same one as in Exit Corners. So we have some characters being coy, and can either having a honest conversation, but then Ink, a lot of times in the story he withholds information from other people because of reasons that make sense to him, but are ultimately rooted in having dramatic effect later on in the game. I will say it's been a long time since I developed this, and there's a lot of things I would do differently, but something I still like is the font choice. Blue Highway is the font, and it's still just very pleasing to read. It's not an accessible font, but it's easy enough on the eyes that it is easy to read in large quantities. but it has just enough style to stand out a tiny bit. This episode is called A Cut Above because of the sword on the wall. It's not a very good reason to name an episode like that, but, a couple of the episode names are just terrible puns. We have ink waxing poetic about swords. Bit of a weeb in that regard. You might think that this is an element of the character that, like, I share, but that is not true at all. I don't really have any interest in in collectibles like that. I'm not much of a collectibles guy in general. It's true, every good game has swords. There is... Oh, what? Wow. Exit corners encourage you to buy a sword for the hell of it. Well, I'm glad. I hope you enjoy your sword. There's also the, there's a bit of a pen is mightier than the sword thing going on here, where both a pen and a sword are very key items that both demonstrate how corners works. And then we have this inconsequential choice, or seemingly inconsequential choice that a whole ending is locked behind, which I think is pretty funny. Because of all the choices in the game, having an opinion of whether or not a sword is real, you don't think that would be super significant, but it turns out it is. Which is kind of bad design in that you're never going to know. But, it's another one of those decisions where, two players might not realize something is different. But later on, they'll talk about the game, and then they'll realize their differences, and they'll realize that choice meant something. So, in that regard, it's kind of neat. It's also kind of funny, yeah, that seemingly inconsequential choice has pretty big ramifications. I still love Beth. I think she was a great character to write. This is just a straight, relationship value choice. It's not the most nuanced. You can pick on Beth or just cooperate with her. It's not the most interesting choice. But, earlier I was adamant. I'm just adding these small choices here and there. However, that did make the catch-up tool very annoying. Not that I designed the catch-up tool from the get-go. We have this poker puzzle coming up, which is the very earliest bit of a turning point in Liza and Ray's friendship. I like poker as a thing that they both like because, as we know from earlier, Ray is a numbers guy. He likes systems. He likes to know how things work. And Liza's more of an emotionally intelligent person, but both skills are used in poker, right? There's the card counting aspect of it, and the math aspect of it, but also the reading people aspect of it. So while they're both interested in poker, and both good at poker, they're good for different reasons. This puzzle I did like. It's... I like the concept of not losing to a royal flush. I think that little bit of trickiness is... it's good. It's a good lateral thinking puzzle, in my opinion. And yes, a 379. Try to fit one of those in basically every place I can. However, the don't lose to royal flush thing, it's not worth making an entire new interface just for that. But this is the type of puzzle that is not best served by the tile swapping mechanic. It'd be better if there was like a card interface of some kind. But, it just wasn't worth the extra dev time. So ultimately, I just went with the tile swapping. Like the your hand and then this down here. And then the immovable tiles. Not the most elegant. But what is a little bit more elegant are the clues Beth gives in this chapter. So they have a discussion about various suit cards in a lot of the different... they have a conversation about some of the significant suit cards in a standard 52 deck of 52 cards. She goes over them one at a time. All of the face cards in this puzzle are famous. Is Ink a Magic the Gathering fan? No, but I am a Magic the Gathering fan, which is why there's a lot of small little Magic the Gathering references here. I still play Magic the Gathering, and I'm still very much an entrenched fan, but Seance, funnily enough, has pretty much no mention of it. I think I just kind of wrung myself dry in Exit Corners. However, I did get more into D&D since Exit Corners came out, and there's a lot of D&D stuff in Seance, down to basically, the characters in the game play D&D. They don't mention it by name, but they play tabletop role-playing games. All of the OST names are Magic the Gathering cards. And they're even balanced by color, if that means anything to you. Some of them are also names of famous card combinations. Like Ad Nauseam is a card name, and then Ad Nauseam Tendrils is a combo name, where you use the card Ad Nauseam to draw a lot of cards, and then Tendrils of Agony to kill your opponent, basically. King of Hearts, Suicide King. And so all these face cards also sort of foreshadow Beth's Corner a little bit. Suicide King, Laughing Boy, Flower Queen, and Ace of Spades. Yeah, I'll maybe at the end of the stream I'll go over the different cards. The cards themselves aren't significant. They just had to have like a Magic the Gathering name, and they had to fit the song somewhat. I do like mixing it up in terms of hints. Like, for the first bunch of chapters, all the contestants, you ask them individually what their opinion is on the puzzle. For some of the more, intense puzzles where there's like a literal death trap, you ask all the contestants something at once. And then in some of these puzzles, you'll ask a pair of characters if it is relevant to the puzzle, or it makes for good narrative. And honestly, it has been long enough that I sort of forget some of the things I've written. I remember most of it in broad strokes, and when I read it again, it's easy to remember what I was thinking at the time. But every now and again, a line or two will catch me off guard. And I'll be like, did I write that? Death track, yeah, emo music. You'll have to forgive me. I don't stream too often, and I'll often be playing and talking, and then reading the text while having a totally different thought, and then also reading the chat. And I know people who stream more are very good at that. But as someone who does it infrequently, my thoughts are a little bit scattered. I think the dialogue here is a little bit different if you get their help with it and you ask them enough. Ah, yes. So we're here at the garden. One of the first areas in the game that is fully rendered with like an illustration as opposed to being a 3D composite. There's, of course, some wonderful art done by my good friend Simon. And I wanted him to have fun with the garden. So, these are all ostensibly, quote-unquote, real plants. But I said you can dip into the fantastical a little bit, which is why we have some extremely big mushrooms here. I don't think you can get mushrooms that big IRL, but I think it's a detail that's not especially significant to the overall plot, so I hope everyone thinks it is okay. The site of the garden makes for a good cliffhanger, but the dialogue at the end there was not the most climactic or the most cliffhangery. From here on out, I'll probably skip the recaps. I do get quite a bit of mileage out of slowing the tracks down when necessary. I also have the option to speed them up, and I do sometimes, but typically I find the songs sound best when they're playing at normal speed, but then sometimes I'll slow them down to give them a more atmospheric vibe, and for variety's sake. Most of the songs, when you speed them up, I feel like it gets a little bit distracting, but that's just me. So I suppose before all the, before it's all, Corner's technology, and this is sort of generated by her mind. This is, maybe where you start questioning, the people who organize this thing, how do they recreate this so perfectly? What is their motivation behind it? I'm going to reread this dialogue. Liza feels the room is wrong. I don't... See, this is something I've forgotten. I don't actually remember what I meant by that, funnily enough. I did definitely write it with purpose. See if it comes back to me. I think it has something to do with, like... Yeah, Liza was blind, so there's... like, the feel of the room is a bit different. Maybe... Yeah, something along those lines. I don't think it's the plants themselves, necessarily, but maybe just because it's, like, an artificial room. She can't feel the sun on her face. Might also have to do something with never mind. But you see, I'm starting to forget stuff just a little bit. That's a minor detail. So this is the first corner they encounter. This is before they really know the purpose behind any of them. Ray commenting on the mushrooms. Lack of wind, that's another thing, yeah. And we have the screen in the back that's there, not for the puzzle, but just because scent appears here. And the only interface in which scent appears is a screen. So, unfortunately, it definitely stands out a bunch. Maybe not in a bad way necessarily. We got the when I told Simon to draw this, I was like, yeah, let's do like a creeper shot from the tree. I didn't really mean it like that, but that's how I communicated it to him. I was just like, we need a CG here. It's a significant scene. Exit Corners 2 featuring scent on a blimp. I love it. Shoe designs, that's a great question. There were some shoe sketches for the characters. They weren't fully rendered. But when Sedona redrew the characters, the first thing she did was a full body sketch of all of them. I remember I posted like the full body Liza sprite to the Discord once, and people were making fun of her shoes. You could probably dig that up if you search for shoes. Oh yeah, there's definitely a Discord. It's funny. I'm always aware of all my social because I run all of them. But yes, we have the Discord, we have the Reddit, and we have the Twitter. So you probably came here from the Reddit or the Twitter. But there is a Discord. You should be able to access it from, well, for any other social. It's either on the sidebar of the Reddit or possibly in the description of the Twitter page. Discord is still active, yeah. It's we're between games, and that my new game isn't a serial release, so it's not active like Peaks Exit Corners active. But I would appreciate if you join the Discord, so you can keep track of when the new game comes out, and get updates. The indie life is hard, man. So any little bit you can help by following us on social, I would appreciate greatly. So Beth has her emo stint here. Ink finally convinces her to divulge the location of this chest. Blood and phlegm, how humorous. A weakness of my writing in this story, at least that's this is an opinion of mine, is whenever the gang does a task that takes a long time, I feel like the transition is awkward. I still think that way a little bit. So here where they're digging, or, in another room where they're searching for a long time for a clue or something to turn the screen on, it can be a little awkward sometimes. That's what I feel. But part of the reason I don't totally skip over it that often is because, I wrote this not as an explicit thriller, but, has elements of that. And certainly 999, the game that influenced this one, was more a thriller than it was sci-fi. And thrillers don't skip ahead too much, or it breaks the tension if you skip ahead too much, if it's a tense situation. So I tried to not do that too much in this story. Funnily enough, in Seance, to contrast, there's no narration, it's all dialogue, which has its own challenges, but helps keep things a bit snappy. And because it's a bit more slice of lifey and it's not, an outright thriller, scene changes and skipping ahead a whole day doesn't feel weird, at least to me. Oh, I have some stuff to talk about with this puzzle. We'll get there in a moment. So this is a relationship value thing that, one, feels significant, and two, lets you skip over the puzzle, like, straight up. But let's get started with this puzzle. The only puzzle in the game that uses, 3D, because commissioning 3D was annoying. And it still is, because I don't have as many 3D contacts. Ray does have a lot of funny lines. So the name of this type of puzzle is Lights Out. And you can go to a Lights Out puzzle generator online and make your own with, whatever orientation or dimensions you want. This one is mathematically impossible to solve unless you use the gimmick. It's not super clear how this works, but once you click it once or twice, the hope is that it, clicks. I previously had an issue with this puzzle where it was not accessible. Originally, the tiles were green if they're good, but then yellow if they're not. But the shade of yellow that I used was very similar to the green, so folks who were, I want to say red-green colorblind, I'm not sure, but folks who had a specific type of colorblindness had a lot of difficulty with the puzzle. And for that, I was very embarrassed. So I quickly fixed that in a patch. Other than that, I'm actually quite happy with this puzzle. This is a puzzle that uses its unique interface very well. I think the gimmick is clever. And of course the gimmick is activating one of the tiles while the animation is playing. I think that's so delightfully lateral thinking-y. This wasn't directly influenced by the example I'm about to bring up, but it is a very similar type of puzzle that I think influenced me subconsciously. There's a Nintendo 64 game called Rocket Robot on Wheels. And in that game, which is a, N64 platformer, there's a part where you have to play tic-tac-toe with a robot chicken. And this chicken is impossible to beat at tic-tac-toe. Tic-tac-toe is a solvable game. They made the AI for that impossible to beat. However, the interface for this tic-tac-toe game is that, you take these objects, I guess they're like balls or something, and you throw them onto the tic-tac-toe field. And then standing opposite of you is this chicken doing the same thing. And the way you need to actually solve that puzzle was to throw, your tic-tac-toe ball at the chicken, which is kind of using the puzzle's interface to get them to screw up their aim. And then they make a bad move, and then you could solve the puzzle. It's not a direct analogy to this, but it's that type of lateral thinking puzzle that really wowed me as a kid, and probably subconsciously influenced a lot of my puzzle design on this game. Yeah, Professor Layton certainly has some tricky puzzles. So here they find the money. The money is a terribly photobashed, blurry art that I made, as is the key card on top of it. Funny comment from Liza, like, "Oh, you hiding it from the revenue agency or something?" Sort of knowing that her father is embezzling funds. So I'm not really in the emotional mood to earnestly talk about this backstory of Beth's. So I'll skim over it a little bit. It's certainly you feel for her, or that's the intention. There's a bit of a clue here, where she says her face, her eyes. The last thing I remember was my granddaughter looking up at the skylight before it collapsed on her. That's what caused Liza's blindness, of course. It's not outright stated, but certainly you put two and two together, and that's what did it. And I think ultimately it's her optic nerves were destroyed, but her brain could still receive stuff, which is why she can participate in corners. I do like Beth's tone here. I thought, I was reasonably happy with that. She's somewhat eloquent, but still pretty grounded. That's where other people find out about Earl. Of course, some amount of irony here. Liza getting mad at Beth for saying that her son is dead when Beth's son is her father. A lot of little juicy bits throughout the story like that. And then Sen comes in and he's a jerk. Earl being an AI, definitely a good guess. Totally in line with like a lot of the other theories. And was a pretty popular one up until the last episode. I remember there being a theory, because I love looking at the fan theories, that Beth was a robot following this episode. I probably won't get into the whole reasoning, but people thought like a robot Beth came out of the room at the end of the episode. The Beatles theory where one of them died. I don't know that one. Unfortunately, I think two of them died. If we're talking about the same Beatles. I said this last time, and I'll say it again. I still like the soundtrack for this game. I thought Julian and Brian did a great job. We just got Brian back on for sounds as well, so he'll be doing a couple tracks there. In addition to Rebecca, I think it's going to sound great. I do like how Sent nonchalantly says, that is correct. Liza being pragmatic. This is still the part of the story where I think she was not especially popular with the fandom. But she's not cold-hearted, she is just pragmatic. I love that copy pasta. Ray being also pragmatic, not to the extent that Liza is, but, you know, double checking with her, but not really putting up a fight. Which is, you know, typically how I deal with folks who offer to pay for lunch. I'll double check, but I won't put up a fight after that. Either stays basically to the end because she loves ink. Beth lightly smiling here is kind of sad. Like, her smiling expression has a bit of melancholy to it. Garden corner try not to laugh challenge. That's actually extremely funny. I shouldn't have read that. So the whole laughing gas thing, I certainly read about it. However, I've never actually been put under. Never actually been given laughing gas. So my depiction of this, probably not very realistic. However, I decided that was okay because this is Corners, and I could always hand wave it by saying, that's what Ink thought the gas would do. Key detail here where Liza smiles / laughs. All right, well, let's keep going. The nature of playing. Probably one of my least favorite titles. I think it aged the worst. I know why I called it this, but funnily enough, all the puns aged better than this. Skip this. It was Liza. She helped me realize something. Of course, she's lying about what Liza helped her realize, but you don't learn that until, the last chapter, basically. Beth was able to leave the room on her own because she had a better understanding of what laughing gas did in the actual quantities it was being released into the room. Although I do like the fact that Beth is probably the most physically tough person. Not physically strong, but physically resilient person here. It's her determination. I love cliffhangers. It's a shame. I'm going to keep talking about Seance here because I'm in the middle of developing it. Seance only has 5 chapters. That means I can only make 4 cliffhangers. It's tragic. So we have Sean lying out of his ass. He only mentions he's being followed when he suspects that he may have to join them for course correction. And the first time he does this is when Beth does not die in her corner. Nosebleed instructions? Yeah, that wasn't good. I should have done my research on that. That one was, I do research for a good amount of stuff. That one, I was arrogant and thought I knew better. But, I trust no one will actually come to my game for medical advice. So I don't feel as bad about it. Oh, damn it, my nose is bleeding. Okay, well, let me play, 18 chapters of this visual novel for instructions on how to fix it. And really, this is, I probably learned that from media that didn't do their research. So I'm really just continuing the cycle. I'm just carrying on the legacy of terrible medical advice. Something that is nice about ontological mysteries like this, if you have a scene where 2 characters are interacting and there's no immediate threat of death, they're going to abide by all the normal social customs and contrivances. They'll maintain a natural bit of politeness when talking to people. But when you go to, this death game scenario, people get to be more extreme in their emotions and less polite, so which is why you can have stuff like, Ray being more outwardly a jerk than he might be in public. It's just fun to contrast with all the seance scenes I've been writing. Oh, okay, fun fact here. Liza's asking, what do you do when you're not being kidnapped? So Ether says some kind of boring stuff here. Solitaire, hearts, card games. Family games. I'm naming games that are on are like the default like Windows like computer games for like Windows 2000 or whatever. You know, Solitaire, Hearts, Pinball. I've got an old pinball machine. She's just naming Windows Windows programs. I'm not saying that just because. I don't mean to be like she's built on Windows 2000 and that's why she likes it. I just thought it was a funny little thing to look back on later. So we have self-defense, martial arts, spits. That I remember I left this dangling a little bit in case I ever wanted her to like punch someone during like the climax. That never ended up happening, but would have been cool. I would have liked to see Liza punch Sean, but that never just ended up being a scene. But I left it there just in case. So I'm like, when I get to writing it, if it makes sense, it would be exciting. Liza should have punched Sean. If only in another universe that happened. I forgot who on the Discord said Sean would be into NFTs. He definitely would. God, hate that guy. And hate NFTs. If you ever see an Exit Corners NFT, it's not me. So now we get I think an important bit of downtime between the chapters. Not between the chapters, like right after that very intense corner. Having this like bit of breathing room, bit of downtime is nice. Yes. We've been in this room before. Oh, almost this room. It's very similar. This is where I started reusing backgrounds. I actually did get Jason, who originally did the 3D backgrounds, just composite a few different ones. Like, yeah, just change the textures a bit and move the furniture around. That'll be enough. So we have this riddle. It's a great puzzle, one of the best puzzles, I think. The lot of numbers you have to look at is annoying, and the interface is kind of crappy. However, the bit of foreshadowing baked into the puzzle, I still love that. I think it's great. And of course, we got the 37.9 here. Oh crap! Now I got to do math. Well, maybe I'll just ask Ray. He'll eventually come up with the answer. I'm not kidding. I forget the exact combination. And I don't feel like counting right now, so I'm just gonna get Ray to do it. Oh wait, no, Ray can't do it because he can't. I'm like, Ray's good at math, but no, Ray won't come up with the answer because he can't think outside the box like that. Okay, let's start counting. Actually, maybe Beth could do it. This is the laziness coming out, folks. Either here just reading the note back, you know. Dang, I forget exactly what the exact thing was. Anyway, I guess it's Liza who must have the answer then, right? no, it's okay. Oh, thank you for the help. But I do want to see what contestant does it, because I'm actually really curious now. I had a lot of difficulties with some of the scripts. The apostrophes, and the quotation marks. Some of them are smart, so they have directionality to them, and some of them are not, and are just, straight. And the formatting was annoying. Okay, well. That's 12.4. I can't even count. I can't even count anymore. So I'm trusting you on this. The tiniest bit of... There's a bit more foreshadowing here, I think. Hold up. Right, I gotta remember what it was exactly. So each of the colors represents a contestant, and this is another Magic the Gathering thing. They all loosely correlate to one of the Magic the Gathering colors. Ray is red, Beth is green, Ink is blue, and then Liza is black. And I remember, this is like the smallest thing ever, but like the total amount, or the highest amount that their numbers total, is sort of how the contestants are weighted in terms of like importance to have live. I worded that terribly, but Ray has like the highest numbers because he is actually supposed to die in the game. Beth has the second highest because, like, maybe she lives, maybe she dies. Ink has the third highest because he's like the eyes for the contestant, so it's important that he lives for most of it. And then Liza has the lowest numbers because she is the boss's daughter and she cannot die under any circumstance. That was a conscious decision, but it's the most minor thing ever. But that's what the developer playthrough is for, so you can learn all the useless shit like that. Someone in the chat mentioned Exit Corner speedrunning. That exists to some extent. I've seen speedruns by more than one person of either a chapter or a couple chapters. Not the whole game, because I don't think the whole game was out at the time. Ray's mad at the puzzle. Ray's always mad at the puzzle. Sean, any character can be your favorite character. A character you hate can be your favorite character. That is okay. You can not like a person, but you can like the drama they bring to the scene. And Sean certainly does bring drama to the scene. I keep bringing up Seance, of course. One of the characters in Seance is a police officer, Officer Bryans, and I've been making him like the worst, the worst person. He's a terrible, terrible person, but he's a lot of fun to write for that reason. He certainly brings tension to the scene. He's not half as clever as Sean, just kind of like a bully, but he is dumb and fun to write. So here they're talking about the nature of what is a game. This is sort of a thing that rubbed off on me in university. It's like, oh, it's a fun philosophical thing to talk about. It's not super central to the theme of the story, but it's a fun thing to talk about. Let's go with... I'll go with Ether. This isn't... I'm not trying to make a statement or anything, and I don't have a concrete personal definition for a game, but it is a fun thing to muse on. The narration is important in the game, but the scenes where it's mostly dialogue have the most velocity, I think. Ooh, some maturation. Ray apologizes. Can Ether run Doom? Ah, man, I should have included that. Ever since all the Animal Crossing, cross Doom stuff, I do associate Doom with being juxtaposed with cute things. So we have Punishing Fire, Ray's theme play here. I hesitate to say Ray's theme, but most of the tracks do have an associated character that I like to play the track next to. Or rather, each character has one track I like to use in their scenes predominantly. And this is Ray's. Punishing Fire, yes, that was on purpose. Well, it's also a Magic the Gathering card. You have to find something that is both a Magic the Gathering card and fits thematically. Because Ray used fire to punish people. And also, you can deal 2 damage to any target. Ray does swear a lot. Ink also swears a lot. It is appropriate in this context, although I've tried to ratchet the swearing down a little bit in Seance. There is still some, of course. It's just the characters are less prone to it. We have the shortest CG in the game. Yeah, all right, let's go to the next chapter. And again, Ray's angry. Ooh, a little bit I wanted to mention about Punishing Fire, the track. A lot of the tracks in Exit Corners had sound-alikes I would provide. Like, hey, this song is, the one I want this track to be like in terms of mood or in terms of instrumentation. Most of the ones I referenced for sound-alikes were tracks from OC Remix, and OC Remix is a video game remix site. And for this track, the song I referenced was a remix of Oil Ocean from, I think, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is funky. You get a little bit of industrial in there and some bassiness. I'm not like a musical expert, but I liked the theme. I thought it fit Ray's character. And even the melody is a little bit similar to Oil Ocean, You know, if you really listen to it, if you squint, or whatever the hearing equivalent of squinting is. So they come up with this kind of convoluted plan where Ray will tell Ink about his contact and no one else. Mostly just as a vehicle for Ink to be the person that everyone trusts. Oh, and a tiny thing. A lot of the paintings, because I didn't want to reuse the same paintings, a lot of the paintings are just like the hallways again. Like this painting is like another hallway transformed into the frame and then like liquefied and then with a filter over it. It's just a painting of the hallway. It's very dumb. So here you can get smart with Ray. I won't. Because if you rat on me, I'm going to clock you one. I don't imagine Ray to have that accent, but I cannot... I can't not read this sentence in like a Brooklyn accent. Not that I'm going to try a Brooklyn accent. I don't think that would go over very well. So, this episode, Ray talks about his ex. Classic. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, New York City's got much worse rats. We definitely have rats up here. I've seen some in the neighborhood a little bit. Not too much. It's not like a huge problem, but they exist. It's the big city. So here he goes over university funding. Very exciting. Probably won't comment too much on this. The Ray-Nandon algorithm. I foolishly misspelled Dijkstra when I first wrote the script. I'd seen the word so much in university, I thought I knew how to spell it. I did not. I had someone who was Polish playtest this beforehand, and they set me straight. I do like this choice. Pretty insignificant, but you can join in complaining about his ex or question the one-sidedness of the story, because clearly there's something else going on here. I do like moments where there's silence and then just the sound of the text coming through. You can't do that too much or your game sounds too quiet, but in appropriate moments, I like it. That's very funny. Coffee of cup. Yeah, you do look up a lot of weird stuff when it comes to that. I had an artist and an editor both be like, yeah, I can't, like, I don't want to be put on a list for searching weird stuff. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna get into it because it's kind of gruesome. But like, there's some bits where like looking up the feasibility of some of these like traps and stuff, definitely questionable search history kind of thing. Oh, so Beth here. Why is she prodding about Ray's contact? Is it an old professor of his? Why is that her guess? Well, there is a part of Beth right now that thinks that every contact is the same. Because at this point in the story, she's clued in that Liza's father and her son are the same person. And she extends this to be, maybe everyone's contact is the same person. Certainly far-fetched, but that was where her mind was going at the time. That would be an interesting, twist for another story. I'm sure it exists, but, having 5 different characters, or a number of different characters, all reference their friend, who has a different name. It turns out they all are the same person. I'm sure that exists in some capacity, maybe not with 5 people. And you're right, she is almost kind of right. Two pairs of contestants have a shared contact. Yes, so now we have the roof starting to come down very slowly. One of the few traps I could display in 3D very rudimentarily. This is a dumb joke. This is a horrible dumb joke. You gotta put them in alphabetical order. Strength, string. All of the puzzles in this wing have like sort of like a computer science bent to them, for Ray's sake. The creators of the game want him to get arrogant and want him to be prepared for his corner. That is basically outright coding. I'm not going to go through all of the clues here, but you go through enough of them, and eventually they deduce that you just have to say, alphabetical order. And then they're like, well, that's the order they're already in. Has anyone actually tried that? And bashfully, of course, the player must not have tried that at that point, which I think is cheeky. Oh, is it significant that there's a sword in here too? Wait. Let me go back to the hallway, I guess. Because I do not remember that. Oh, sorry. So I thought you meant sword in the hallway. I'm like, I don't remember there being a sword in this hallway. I think that would, be wrong. Is it significant that there's a sword in the puzzle? Not especially. I don't think the choice of the weapons is all that meaningful or all that foreshadowy in any way. I did want a variety so that you can't compare a wand to an axe. That kind of doesn't make any sense. What are you comparing? Or a bow? To hint that there's another part of it, or another way of thinking about it. Hitting someone over the head with a bow. You can do it. Hey, some bows are pretty hefty. So Scent gets to be sexist here. That in itself doesn't, you know, he's just like taking on this persona of a bad person and is thus sexist. This bit of like, oh, not a man or a woman. Again, like I said earlier, you know, playing it now, kind of cringy. But, you know, I wouldn't do that again. That's just how the story is. So I'm going to not click on that. And the dead naming thing, not great. Another thing that I wouldn't do, you know, you learn as you mature what is okay and what is not. This is not. But again, you know, it's a mistake I made. I will own up to it. Unfortunately, at this point, I can't, like, updating the game at this point would be, like, hard to impossible. So, you know, it is what it is. Is Scent conscious? That is a difficult question to answer. Yes, I would say so, within the context of corners. So gonna hastily skip this part a little bit. But here we go, different topic. So the connections start to establish themselves. Ray mentions as much. You know, the lighting in this bar area almost makes it look like a dressing room, the way the lights are sort of positioned on top. And this part's important, you know. It's not that Ray and Liza hate each other and then hate each other and then like each other all of a sudden. It's a kind of an ebb and flow. So the relationship starts to get a little bit better when Ray has the maturity to apologize to her. But then they start arguing again. Burning a house down, based. Almost killing a blind girl, cringe. Great. This is great commentary. Yep, thesis on brainwaves is a tiny bit of foreshadowing. You can't lean too far into it. You can't say like, oh, he had a thesis on lifelike simulations, you know. You just have to gently hint at it. So Sean, being quiet here, waiting to see how things play out. The plan was, if the Rays corner went well enough, Sean would start messaging Ink again. But, of course, that's not what happens, and things get pretty derailed. Is there a secret bar scene? Technically, yes. Well, there's reference to it. If you do some of the secret ending stuff, Ink mentions trying a bunch of different whiskeys and flipping the labels on some of them in order to, like, test his, like, corners reality theory. That's only briefly mentioned. If you like D&D, you'll definitely like how Seance turns out, because there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Dang. What an obvious painting. I don't remember if the original like painting was like blank or was just like very obvious to be repeated. But yeah. I redid the art. Can you tell? It had to be like, it's not very good, but it had to be obvious enough that the characters would comment on it, because that is important to this chapter. So it has to be like the loudest thing ever. And I could not budget someone to draw something, so I did it. I made this postmodern looking thing. It was also meant to be like, it's kind of like the Exit Corners logo, with the white and the separator in red. This is a nice little bit of, not insight. It's a nice opportunity for the player to demonstrate that they've been paying attention. I think most people probably guessed 4 here. Actually, I have the stats on that, and definitely most people guessed 4. So the player's reward for having noticed that is some musing from ink about the significance of it, and basically confirmation that it is significant, that there are lots of instances of the number 4 and 5 contestants. Who is the extra one? This puzzle was originally just the programming puzzle. So the 2 answers here are, you do an octal to decimal conversion. But the other answer is this, right? Which a Reddit user pointed out, and I thought that was just too obvious to not include as a alternate solution. Originally, what I wanted to do was have an alternate solution, and like an extra alternate solution in the second half, but I'm like, oh, this is too good, so I'll add this in here. I forget what the contestants talk about here, so why don't we have a look? Beth gets very daydreamy or lost in her thoughts after her corner. You'll notice that a lot if you play the game. I do like that, there's kind of a through line for how some of the contestants give their clues. Like, Ray will always do the analytical thing or talk about brute forcing if it's possible. Beth will often talk about the significance of some of the elements. Like, just in this session alone, we have, the different face cards that are famous, as well as she talks about, some of the significant dates you can assemble here. Oh, and of course, another 379 here, because I include that in every puzzle I possibly can. I was thinking about it all wrong. We all make mistakes. That's kind of like a pretty cheeky line from Ink there. A lot of these choices are just like, you can be mean to someone if you want. Not the most interesting. How does she know that? This choice came in pretty late, but I actually think this one is a good one that feels significant and does affect this chapter and the next one and the relationship values in a way you would expect. It's amazing how many times Ray can punch his hand in one day. That's what he does when he's mad. What can I say? How many times does ink get hit at most? I think just the Now I'm wondering if there is another one instance I'm not forgetting. Just the twice, I think. Like someone striking someone else. True you are. Use them or lose them. So this is a good cliffhanger. I'm pretty happy with the pacing of this one. Originally, the whole clairvoyance thing comes at the start, or it originally came at the end of chapter 16, and then chapter 17 was just focused on Ray's corner, but I liked having it in the finale more, ultimately, because it gave people a lot to talk about as the big cliffhanger episode. Because you get this information about her, and then you have Ray's corner, and then you have the secret ending if you can find it. So a lot of different elements here. And interesting to read the comments about this one, see how far people's suspension of disbelief stretched with this in terms of, oh, I believe that clairvoyance is a thing, because games such as this one have a lot of pseudoscience-y things in it, versus people who are saying she is definitely lying, and she's in on it. The truth ended up being a little bit of the former and a little bit of the latter. Fun fact, clairvoyance comes up again in Seance. It's not like a very significant plot point, I'll tell you right now. It is mentioned very briefly in passing. But, with how much it is talked about in this game, I felt like I needed to mention it in the next one. which touches on a lot of different supernatural elements. And a lot of Ink's justification here is, this explanation is so stupid that I believe it, because anyone who is lying about it would come up with a much better lie. Which, you know, maybe you're on board with that, maybe you're not. No. The simulation stuff, you get to do that one time. You get to do that one time in your entire fiction, like, not filmography. You get one pass at that, and I wasted it at the very start. If you do it, like, once you've done it once, like, it will... It's obviously already, like, a contentious thing to do, period. But, you know, it can work in some situations if you think it fits the themes, and, you know, the journey's more important than the destination, all that jazz. But you can't do it more than once. You get one shot at that. That's it. Yes, Sean definitely makes fun of Ink for subconsciously coming up with that excuse. Because it's a pretty ridiculous excuse. But that's how Ink subconsciously rationalizes it, and that is reflected in his reality. You can do it as a core plot element if you're not hiding it, you know? But as a twist, you can only do it once. Although, you know, I haven't seen Matrix 4. Maybe the twist is that it's not the Matrix. I don't know. Time loop, those types of theories were very popular because I modeled this game after, you know, the first Zero Escape game, which has a time travel element. So that's something that, you know, is not a very difficult leap to make. Ray's mad. Ray gets mad a lot. Recurring theme here. You know, sometimes it's just nice to have someone who can get mad. Good save from Ether here. Probably the best excuse they could have come up with. The machine. This is, of course, some more bespoke art. And my instructions for this were definitely like, make it look inelegant, inorganic, ugly. It's a very weird situation, right? The vending machine. Yeah, you know, don't stick your hand in a vending machine. Let that be the lesson here. I like this bit where Ray is at his most arrogant and says, "We can't get trapped if they don't lock the door, so we'll keep the door open." And of course, the one time they think of this, it does not work. And I agree. It is fun to look at the old Reddit threads. Or even, it's... I distinctly remember some parts of the Discord where the chat was like very into like a specific theory or another, or comparing notes on endings. And those discussions were very fun to follow as people discovered things. So this is like the most CG intensive part of the whole game. We got the real-time timer too. I certainly went all out this, this chapter, because I knew it was going to be the midpoint finale. I'd like to commend Simon's art here. The rendering on Ray's jacket here, the leatheriness of it is really apparent. It looks nice. That is my opinion. And then Ray just saying, no, you can't. When it comes to like, can you help? The one thing I do regret with this chapter is that there was no puzzle for the midpoint climax. This is interesting in its own way, but it would have been nice to have a puzzle in addition to this. Of course, yeah, Simon is a different artist than Sedona, who did the character sprites, so the way they render faces is a little bit different. That's okay. Similar to how in the first corner, people thought Beth was a robot, a prevailing theory from the second corner was that Ray altered sense code somehow, which is a totally like inline theory and a totally fine one to have. But that one ended up not being correct. But it was a pretty common one, I believe. So, Sense sort of inelegantly says he's an AI here. The name, cheeky, helps offset it a little bit, but still a little bit inelegant, you know. So, this playthrough has mostly been a sequence, like a set of things I like and a set of things I don't like, and me just elaborating on those. Hopefully that is okay. Does the code actually do anything? No. The code Ray is doing is pointless. It is meant to be just complicated enough to distract Ray from the fact that the device is tightening around his arm. That is all. The code is also there to add some amount of like in-universe validity to confirm that Scent is an AI. Because otherwise, they're just taking him at his word. But Ray giving it some credence helps sell it to the player as well. So that's a narrative reason for that. Thanks to this chapter, doesn't Ray end up having the most sprites of all the characters? Yes, Ray easily has the most sprites out of all the characters. Plus, he has all these CGs for this chapter only. We've got his normal sprites. We've got his CGs here, of which there are 4 or 5. We've got his post-arm lopped off sprites. And then we have his arm in a cast sprites. All in all, Ray has the most sprites by, like, over a factor of 2. Starting here, you know what? I think there is reasonable tension in this scene. I'm pretty happy with it. And even though this wasn't intentional necessarily, the way the background shifts and you know, the quote-unquote camera gets closer or further away from Ray in between the two CGs. Like here it's up a little bit closer to him. And then if he's looking backwards, it's a little bit further away. It conveys just enough motion that, I don't know, it makes it more exciting. See, yeah, it just moves the camera enough to make it feel more dynamic than it actually is, because Ray is not actually moving here, right? He's just kind of tilting his body a little bit. Not a conscious thing Simon or I did, really. It just, the resulting effect in the chapter is nice. Yeah, I'm still a big fan of the scene overall. Obviously, there's some stuff I would have liked to do differently now, but yeah, the tension is good, and it is a great shake-up moment. I love having shake-up moments in the middle of a story. It's funny, so you have that split-second shot of Ray in pain. That is not a fully rendered image. And the colors are inverted to help hide that fact, and it's only briefly on screen to help hide that fact. It is a colored sketch, but it's on screen for so little time, and the roughness even helps a little bit. And if it were fully rendered, it wouldn't have mattered if you could, like, fully make out all the details, because it's on screen for such little time. I don't know. It's just efficient use of the artist's time. I didn't get him to fully render that one because having it just be a sketch was enough. There's a lot of CGs in this scene. Okay, well, next game, I'll definitely make sure to have some CGs that feature only the character's shoes. Another crappily photoshopped keycard. I'll take it. When you need to display a miscellaneous prop in this game, it typically takes the form of a full screen background. Fine for this game. I think a little bit not ideal. For that reason, I included there's a little section of the screen that can slide in or out in Seance to just show a prop or something of minor significance. I wish there were EC merch. I know you said that in jest, but I wish I had some to offer people. Logistically, I don't think it would be profitable for me to make a line of whatever. Maybe you could do it really cheapo through some third party service. But then, I don't know. I'm not the most well versed in how to do merch. Ooh. Yeah, I need to do more research on merch to really tell you either way. But in addition to like the over under on like the cost of that, it would also take effort, right? And I really do want to put most of that into Seance right now, which is one of the reasons it's taken me so long to continue this playthrough. There's good character moments from all the characters in this chapter. I really like how it turned out. Funnily enough, Ink is the person who does the least here. Either has her big reveal at the start, Liza sneakily takes the pills here, and is welcomingly defiant. Beth has her moment coming up. Ray, obviously, it's centered on him. It's good. What did she say? Yes, I think I mentioned this in the question-answer thread. She admits to her father embezzling funds. She says it as a distraction so she can take the pills, but that is what she says. Then we get some humility from Ray. I think there's I skipped it a while ago. One sec. Sorry, I skipped it. I don't know if I ever mentioned this. It's very minor. Hold up, I gotta find the. Oh, yes, the air reeked of burnt rubber and another stench that Ink couldn't place. This is like the most minor thing ever. But Ray definitely pees himself here. That's what the stench is. I'm glad I could fill you in on that. Saying that outright might have been distracting. Oh, I clicked through that too fast. I'm sorry. I haven't cried in 3 years. That lines up with his breakup. What is the thing that hurt him? Yes, it was an electric shock. Pretty vague. It is localized in his arm somewhat. I left it pretty vague deliberately, but the thought is that yes, it is some form of a shock. Oh, and the Beth hero shot. That is how I refer to it. I think in the files is the hero shot. Yeah, lots of CGs here. Well, that's what helped sell the chapter. I like how the camera moves up to the ceiling. What I don't like is the fact that it just kind of linearly translates. I know more now, and I would do some kind of easing there in the future. Very minor thing, but yeah. And that's when the hiatus happened. And yeah, so for whoever was asking earlier, the three main socials are Twitter, Reddit, and Discord. I mean, you can access them here, but you can also access them elsewhere. And if you just search them, you can find it pretty easily. Let's, because I promised I'd do this. This is where I'm going to stop in terms of the chapters today. You know, now we can get another hiatus, this time for the developer commentary. But we can go to the sound test. I said I would go over the songs. Again, they're just all named after Magic the Gathering cards, but someone asked about it, so I will talk about them real quick. And Facebook, when I thought about making a Facebook page, but ultimately didn't do it. And I'm fine that that doesn't exist now because it's just, I don't know. Who uses Facebook anymore? Boomers, I guess. I don't know. It's fine to have a Facebook page, but you know, the more I stretch myself thin, the less each individual bit of social will get. No. The first two streams were pretty close together, but then, you know, I moved. We got a house, and I went really hard on seance work, but I felt like I had more time recently, partially because my work moved to a 4-day work week, so I'm feeling jam-packed, so more time for this kind of thing. So some of these these song names are Magic cards that are kind of famous, and some of them are Magic cards that are not famous at all. Let's go over them really quick. Ad nauseum. If I open a new tab, that doesn't break anything, right? Yeah, no, it's fine. Let's just go on the Gatherer. This is Ad nauseum. It's a black card. The function of the card isn't too important, but it's a pretty famous combo piece. And the other card that it's used with is Tendrils Vagnae. And this is a pretty cool card. It's like an alternate art treatment. And that's why there's Ad nauseum and Ad nauseum Tendrils, because it's like a sort of remix version of the original track. Etherling is the only song on this list whose corresponding Magic card is a creature. Most of them are instants or sorceries. There's a lot of cards that have Ether in them or start with Ether. I wanted one of them because Ether is a character in Exit Corners, if you can believe that. A fun fact about Magic the Gathering, they used to spell Ether with the combined AE, but later moved all the names to use just standard A character or standard E character, because it was easier for reading and for databases, I guess. I don't know. Well, that is like a little bit of a, Ether is a creature. It is not like a explicit bit of foreshadowing, but it kind of is funny that like she is the one part of Corners that is like a person and also part of the system. I guess Scent is too, so maybe that doesn't hold up. But All Is Dust is a colorless card because I wanted to keep the amount of cards in different colors balanced. Battle of Wits. 1. Great name for a song where you're solving puzzles. But 2, it's also a it's a colorless card, which is not very common. Like a colorless card that's not an artifact. Yeah. Biorhythm, Duress. Duress is a pretty famous card. Last Stand. Yeah, none of these are that exciting here. Oh, Wit's End must be bugged, actually. It doesn't have like a... It's not locked by anything. That's fine. I'm not fixing that bug at this point. Punishing Fire. We were talking about that one earlier. Yeah, that's this one. I really do like the OST. Hopefully the seances can live up to it. The Stranglehold was a tough one because to keep the balance of colors, this one had to be a red card, and a lot of the red cards are more aggressive, but this is a more chill track, so I needed to find something that was both red and represented more of like a, smothering presence, and that's what Stranglehold ended up being. I don't know, it was slim pickings. And the last two here are Far and Away and Give and Take, which are split cards. And it's not actually called Far and Away, it's called Far -- Away. Because you can cast one half, or you can cast the other half, or you can cast both. Oh, Rack. Stranglehold or Rack, right. So Stranglehold. Good question. That's another one that's like a combo, and the song is like an extension of the other song. So Stranglehold is your opponent can't search libraries, and if an opponent would begin an extra turn, the player skips that turn instead. And the other one was, I think, the Rack. That's not quite right. It's some other card. Gosh, I can't remember exactly what the combo is. It's not an explicit combo. It's like a bit of synergy. It's something that gets them to search a library or something. Anyway, that's that. And the other one was, Far and Away and Give and Take, which are... No. I don't know. Fun to find names for your songs. Sansa's songs don't have that kind of cheeky bit to them. They're just, I know. I'll find a way to uniformly name them before release, but I'm not going to put a ton of effort into it. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining me, everyone. It's 9:30, and, rounding it out at, exactly a 2-hour stream, I think is great. I got through all the chapters I wanted to, and had a bit of Magic the Gathering trivia afterward. I will try not to wait over a year to stream this again, because we're pretty close to the end. I feel like I'll be able to finish this, not in one more stream, but maybe in 2 more streams. 2 of them being Two-Faced, yeah. I almost said that, but I'm like, I did not consciously do that. But it does fit. You're correct. 4 a.m. for you. Oh my gosh. Please get some rest. again, thanks for joining me, everyone. And yeah, if you haven't yet, please follow us on social. It helps. And keep an eye out for when our next game is coming out. All right. Cheers, everyone.